Okay, let's try a photo stamping piece. Photo stamping scenes are they're really you can do them really fast because a lot of the background is already established. This is just a photo print that I picked up at Costco. And their photo center departments, which might be all closed at this point in time, but you can pick it up at any place where they have those types of printing centers. If you don't have a printer at home that you want to do or want to use. And these make for a really fun little project. I did a very extensive last scene in a full 8.5 by 11, so sometimes if you've been watching this video channel for a while, one of the patterns you might detect over time is sometimes when I do a scene that really takes quite a long time, a lot of times I come back right after that with a very quick scene, a very easy, fast scene to do. They're all easy, but some are a lot more kind of involved, due to the size of it or just some kind of experiment that I'm, kind of playing around with or testing, so it takes me a while to kind of work through all the little details of it and whatnot. This is the cabin right here, and what I'm doing with this pen is I inked it up with all black, and I'm kind of going back in here and adding some green highlights into those trees so that I get a varied impression out of it, so it's not just all black, okay? I'm going to mask off this Curvilinear Road just a touch, and I'll kind of aim for this cabin to be right like so, kind of right at the tail end of the road. I don't know if I need to mask this off or not. It's not really going down in there too much, but just in case. These are just regular dye-based inks, okay? And they stamp on photographs really easy. And they absorb really fast, and they dry very fast too. Okay, let's go in with some trees here. I'm going to do some real kind of blossoming looking trees here. Or try to, and work those into the scene. Let's add some black to this right now, and what I'll do is I want these trees to be nice and blooming and whatnot, so I'm going to, here's a brown. Right here, it's not going to just be green trees, okay, so here's a brown in that black, and why don't I try hitting it with a little bit of pink right here. I don't want it, it's not going to be this color of pink right here because I'm mixing in that brown and black into it, but it'll kind of establish the hue that these trees will be stamped in, in terms of the end result. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to put some of these trees in the background, so mask off a little bit of a hill here. And stamp that like so, okay? So like that. See, it's got just a little tinge of that color in there. Okay, and let's go for another one. I like that combination. So it's black. Sometimes I can't even remember. I do so much blending on these. Brown, okay. I don't do the whole thing. I kind of color it, and then I do these little spot colors like this here and there. Sometimes I'm kind of rolling this to remove off a little bit more ink. Sometimes I'm just kind of moving it around on the surface to blend some of that ink in there too. Okay. And I mask this off like so. Put some more trees. I'll maybe make them a little bit higher up, just to change it and go for a little bit of variation. Okay. Like that. Let me see, I think I forgot to change my exposure on my camera. Okay, that's a little bit better. We could go for more trees like that, but let's go for, let's put these trees right here in the foreground. Okay, so we'll go over some black, and this is a little bit of a olive brown. Okay, I'll put this one here in the foreground, I think. Tree cluster. This one's tree cluster small. So we're getting a little bit of a inherent color within my impressions. Okay. Let's use this one again. I'll show you how to layer some additional imagery in here. I'm just going to do this one in black because it's going to go in front of these ones, but watch this now. This is one of my first videos as well. As well as, you know, a lot of my recent ones, but Stampscapes University, one of the videos is called using partials, and I really love using partials of this tree cluster right here so I can get some smaller trees out of it. Just like that right there. I'm just using the tops of it. Okay? We can even come out with some more out here if we want to. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I'll use a partial. I'll just go like this. So I have a bit of this tree coming in right here on the side. Okay. Kind of frames off the scene a little bit. About like so. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some coloring on here. Yeah. One of the easiest things to do and fun to do. It's like a coloring book now. We can kind of go in here and start adding some light tones. Okay, I'm going to come in with some greens for my grass, and then I can come in with some pink tones for the trees in here, the blooming trees. I have a couple different types of pens here. These ones are Marvy's, La Plumes. These ones are Shuttle Art. Right here in between the two sets, I don't know, like 100 pens or so. You can give all the values I want, values in terms of different colors, okay? So this is a little bit of a pale green. Boy, that sure looks more yellow to me. It's like a yellow green. Just come in here, and one of the things about this tone here, or the type of ink, not tone, is that alcohol and water doesn't mix, so it doesn't, it's almost as if you're stamping in a permanent marker, but you're not. You're stamping in just in dye. It's just that the alcohol inks won't mix with the water-based inks, so you can just color right over the top of it. Okay, so I'm going into some of these trees, but see on some of these top parts of the tree, I'll just leave them as is. So it looks like light is coming from up top, but I am putting some tinge of color right on there. This is a very, very pale pink, so I like starting off really light at first and kind of working into the darker tones, okay? It gives me a feel of how a certain hue is going to look applied to a given image, okay? And if you work on it really slowly, you know, with lighter values of a given hue, it just gives you so much control over it. You're not making any big leaps, you know, from, you know, one ink to the next. It's just a real subtle type of application, working in really light tones. Okay, light tones, light values. Okay, this is a little bit of a darker green, but it's really barely visible, right? Coming up on this hill. I won't tone everything in with this, but let's get kind of like foundation going. Okay. And I think we can go a little bit darker. This one is, I'm just seeing it, I'm looking across my pens. This one's a spearmint. Okay, so it's quite a bit darker. Well, not too dark when you lay it on here. It's not too vast of a change. Quite a bit darker, though, from the previous color, okay? So I will add some of this down. I don't like the look of it like just like that though. So you just come in with your lighter tone again and you blend that in, okay? So you kind of hit it with light, kind of give it a little bit of a base coat, hit it with a darker one, and then come back in with the lighter one again and blend that darker one in. See that cabin right there? A lighter version of brown is like a tan, right? So let's see what we have here. It's like beige, apricot, brownish gray. Let's address the cabin in this road right here, okay? You can barely tell, huh? Alright, that was the apricot. Let's go in with this brownish gray here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit cabin on the sides of it, maybe? I might go with more, but you can hit a little bit on the rooftop. I kind of want the roof to remain fairly light, though, as if it's being top lit, you know, by the lighting within the scene, you know, coming from the sky. But on the vertical sides, you know, I might make it a little bit darker like this. I think that would look good on the road, too. Okay. Alright. Real streaky, right? So you come back into it with your lighter one and just kind of blend that in a little bit and get until you get the kind of the textures or pattern or tone value that you want. The alcohol inks sit on the surface of the paper really well, so you can kind of go in there, and when you hit it again with a lighter color, it reconstitutes the ink and it puts it back in solution. I'll even put some of this brown in this meadow area. Okay. I want that wood on that cabin to look a little bit weathered. Sepia. A little sepia on this road right here. You get that real kind of, I don't know if I can. A lot of people are much more experienced with, you know, using alcohol inks and markers and things like that. You know, can probably get a really good, kind of varied textural look with their pens and markers. I don't want things really smooth because I want this road to have some texture in it, so I'm not, you know, going for absolute texture, but I like that kind of watery colored look, you know, where you get that kind of separation, you know, from alcohol inks as it's putting other colors back into solution. I really like that look. It's a real kind of, you know, free form looking, spontaneous look to me. The way that watercolors will move around on the kind of a wet surface. Not that I can do that. I'm not practiced at watercolors. Well, I used to do it in college, but nothing since. Okay, so anyways, see that texture down there? I wanted that variation down there. It's a little bit warm. I like this color right here. Let's put some of that warmth up in our cabin, huh? Some of the colors up there. Okay. Now, let's see if we can... Now, one of the things about photo stamping is, you know, you're a little bit set with certain areas within your piece in terms of lighting. If you stamp something light on top of a dark photo, That area that's light on the stamp is not going to be light because you're stamping it over a darker area. So you're somewhat set with certain types of things. I mean, I can go in here and I'll do it with gel pens, paint pens, and whatnot. But so you can't lighten up certain areas, lighter than, what exists on the photograph. So you're kind of set in some ways. But you can kind of manipulate things a little bit. I'm putting a little bit of this pink down here just to bring in a little element of that pink. The trees, it's supposed to be, that's kind of the theme of this piece. I'll put a little bit of pink underneath my trees down here. Okay. All right. I think that is about it for that. Let's have some fun with some pink paint pen from Sharpie. This one's called Pink. It's like a pastel pink. Okay, so it's going to be light. So this is one of those things where you can kind of manipulate things a little bit and make things lighter. Light on top of dark. It's bringing in this lighter element. I don't know if I'll bring in too much light into a dark area like that, but I'll put some of it in there. Kind of adds a little bit of excitement into a given area by bringing in this lighter element, because it is like adding light onto a certain area that otherwise might be kind of dim. All right, so kind of standing on a little bit. Let me bring this down a little bit more. My tripod was set up so high from that working at 8.5 by 11 all day yesterday, or was it 2 days ago? Lose track of time these days. It's kind of bringing a little element of life in that area. I like to, add a few little dots on the ground, like where there's flower petals, blossom petals on the ground. They've really spread out in the wind and everything like that. Okay. All right, now that was the pink. I'd like to follow up with a little bit of white. This is a white paint pen, Meowsen acrylic painter. It's all kinds of different brands that have this type of thing. I haven't tried any of them except for this one. I mean, I've used, white gel pens and things like that. But these white painter pens, these white acrylic painter pens are pretty nice. They're very inexpensive. They usually come in packs of like 5 or 10 or something like that, just because each pen's only, 50 cents or whatever. So they sell them in bigger packs, otherwise it wouldn't be worth it for them. And there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of different brands out there. I have a feeling they're all made in the same spot, because a lot of them look the same to me, just the label's different. All right. Blossoming trees. Okay, so let me go and put a little highlights here and there. This piece. Put some on my clouds as well. I'm going to add some more elements to this, but I think it's time that I add in some white pigment ink. Let me see if I tossed out a bunch of my real cotton balls. I was trying to use this acrylic one, it's just not happening. You want real cotton, okay, for this technique right here. Real cotton works so much better. Okay, so just your normal white pigment ink. Mine's getting a little bit stained because I think I had a cotton ball with yellow in it or something like that. All right, so I just want to add this in, and just a nice light application of it. Okay, so in the background we have these background clouds and things like that, right, from the photo stamping. So I like to add some of this light where light meets dark. Okay, so we have our imagery in here that's darker next to the cloud there. So that's an area. So you see that right there, where that light is kind of coming through from the background to the foreground? By just simply adding that around those trees like that. So you have to add it where, like I said, light meets dark like that. So you can see that tree is kind of up against some background of light. Maybe some of that light is kind of coming through here. So it's a way to kind of envelop your imagery in light, and that makes for a real comfortable, friendly looking scene. Everyone wants to be enveloped in nice, beautiful, glowing light, and that's what you can do with a little bit of pigment ink. It gives you that, it gives us that spirit of something like that happening. All right, now this area up here is getting a little bit dull, so I could go in and bring some lighter areas into those clouds by just putting a little bit of white into it. You see how it's a little bit lighter than that one? And you can just keep adding more accordingly, like that. And see how this white pigment ink goes right on top of this photograph right here really nicely. And it gives kind of a deeper dimension. I think these clouds look a little bit more dimensional this way. It's like they're kind of being brought to life a little bit. They look a little bit more three-dimensional this way by having lighter elements. And it's just putting like this real thin layer of pigment ink, white pigment ink over the top of it. These clouds in the background look a little bit warmer, white. And this is more of a neutral white, so I think having that those two temperatures, neutral and warm, play against each other. It just makes for a, I don't know, kind of a more interesting sky. You see that going on back there? Isn't it kind of, it seems, to me it seems like the scene is now kind of awakening a little bit. Everything's a little bit more related because everything's being kind of enveloped in this, light within the scene. I need new cotton balls here. Okay. Let's come over here. Let's put a little bit of this mist, like it's an early morning mist right there. See the top of that little ridge there? It's a little bit lighter, so I can put some up there. It's like where light meets dark, remember? And the dark would be the cabin. So now we've kind of enveloped this cabin on a little bit of that kind of glowing light. Isn't that fun looking though? And let's bring this down here. See this area down here? This area to me is not very interesting looking. It's a little bit muddy and whatnot. But you put a little of this fog down here and it kind of brings a little bit of visual interest into this location. Plus it gives it something in common with the most distant of areas, meaning the sky. So when you bring a little bit of commonality like that, you create continuity within the piece. And if there's certain areas, things for me, there's certain areas that just, they're not working great. But you put a little bit of this white pigment ink over it, all's well in the world, you know. Cotton ball and a little bit of pigment ink. It's amazing what that can do for a piece. A lot of times I'm going darker and darker and darker in certain areas of a scene, but this is one, one of those times when it just seems like going lighter and lighter and lighter tends to be helping it. So see that kind of fog down here, and look at this fog back here, and you know, these trees. Okay, let's put a little bit on this pathway. Alright, let me pause here. I'm going to grab a couple stamps I think will go really well in here. Okay, I have this little deer here and this fence I thought might be kind of nice visual lead-ins for the scene. Ideally, I probably should have stamped this one before, but I'll see if I can kind of stamp it right over that pigment ink. Sometimes it doesn't go over the pigment ink real well. I mean, I can wipe that pigment ink off too and kind of just reapply it if need be, but I'm just gonna go right in there. Okay, just gonna put this right next to that road and under the tree. Yeah, right there. See how it fits right there. It didn't stamp out completely black, but it looks okay because it's got that foggy feel to it, you know, where it's a little bit diffuse. It didn't stamp out completely black because I had the all that white pigment ink underneath it. Okay, dear. One of the little things videos that I have, little tweaks, is to, if something's standing in grass, what you do is you wipe off the feet a little bit, you know. And if you start going all the way up legs, then you're saying that the grass is really tall. But if you want something standing in something, then kind of wipe it off. Now what I'm going to do here too, because it's so foggy in here, is I'm going to kind of wipe off, not all of it, all the ink, but a little bit more as I go up here, so it's going from pretty dry on the feet, legs are a little bit drier, and then it's wet up top, so it's, hopefully it looks like it's, you know, there's a low-lying mist on the ground. Okay. And let's get this about right here. If you want to know where things go in relation to other things, see if I stamp this right up here, you know, next to the cabin, you're saying that that's, you know, some kind of like one-story tall, you know, deer. The lower you stamp something, usually it represents something closer to us, you know, so, yeah, okay. So anyways, you see where that, you know, he's like a little bit in fog, like that, like its legs, okay? So lower to us, closer to us, just in general, okay? And there's definitely exceptions. Oops! I wasn't thinking. I don't have too much cotton left here. Let me use this other part of the cotton ball. I'll go like this. Okay, so now I've stamped those impressions in there. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to come back in here and just, oops, let me kind of blot this out and get this established first. You kind of want to do this, you know, once you get this going here, kind of blot it off on something. It squashes down all the bristles and it compresses a lot of the ink, and it pushes some of the ink back so that, you know, you won't get this textured look. And let's see. I need to figure out where that ink is on here. Okay, here we go. Let me see. I wanted to put that dough in a little bit more kind of fog right here. Alright, now this pigment ink dries darker than what it looks like when freshly applied, so it's not going to be that light. It'll kind of mellow out a little bit. Okay, build up some more in the background if you want. You know, you're just kind of building up more and more. And as it dries, it'll kind of mellow out and blend in a little bit. Okay. The more white I put, kind of, it seems like it's a little bit of a later morning or something like that, you know. When it's like the fog starts to, you know, dissipate in the light of day, the warmth of the day. Try to put like a lot of light coming from, you know, the back of the cabin, like this. Maybe through some of these trees, like that. Kind of vary the fence a little bit. I'll put a little bit of pigment on, you know, in front of one post and, you know, leave the other post as is. But you see all that light kind of coming from behind the cabin like that. Doesn't it feel like it's enveloping it? You know, it just makes the scene a little bit friendlier looking. Okay, so let's see. One of the things that occurred to me before is I think I'm going to use some of this branch right here, but I'll try to make it look like it's like a blooming branch of some sort. Okay, this is the oak branch, and what I'll do is I'll try to incorporate some of these colors into the branch itself. Okay. Let's go with that same combination of kind of black, brown, and pink here. Okay. Scumble this around a little bit on these branches. Like I said, I don't want it too, you know, startling, you know, pink or anything like that. I just want it to give it something in common, you know, a tinge, but otherwise I want it to look like it's in the foreground though too, so I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I haven't done this with this stamp before, so. Okay, so this is going to be an overhanging branch. It's like we're just kind of standing underneath, you know, the branch, looking up at this, looking into the scene. I inked up more than I thought I would use, but you always want to do that. You don't want to ink up just only what you think you're going to use, otherwise you might stamp it out and it's, oh my gosh, something, you know, didn't stamp out on the scene where it was supposed to. Okay, like that other one down here, kind of hold this down a little bit longer and allow that ink to transfer onto that paper that also happens to have a, you know, a layer of pigment ink over it. So dye inks work by staining. So sometimes that layer of pigment ink down there is going to, you know, not allow that penetration. Okay? Alright, so you see a little pink tinge up there? That's what I was going for, but I wanted it to stand out too as being foreground, so I'll go for another one over here. I drew this design like this so you can use whatever portion you want. It's a little bit more dense out this way, a little bit lighter over this way. I mean, you can definitely use, the whole thing too, but I mostly use this for whatever portion I want, or for the different portions that I happen to want in any given, space. You can see on here where it picked up some of that pigment ink. This is all the types of coloring we used to do over at A Stamp of the Hand when I worked there. This type of blending to get those multi-colored impressions. Okay. Even pressure. Okay, there we go. Kind of relates to the background a little bit, doesn't it? Now having that pink in there, those branches like that. Okay, but now one of the things that's really fun about that is you can go into it with some additional tones. I have my pink pen here. Where's my lavender one? I also have a lavender. Well, I have like 3 colors of these Sharpie paint pens. Okay, there's green, blue, pink. Where's my lavender one? Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. I don't need these two. Just kind of adding those little highlights in here. Some places stands out a little bit more than others. Add it down here in the pink too. Okay, that was that. Now let's go with the pink here. Pink is lighter, so it should stand out a little bit more in terms of contrast. What I'm going to do is, let's say like some breeze comes by or something like that, so I'm going to put kind of a few of these little petals just in the air like this, okay? I'll put some more on the road. And more, on the grass here and there. It doesn't stand out too much. It stands out a little bit more in here. But I don't know, just one of those little details. It's just a lot of fun to add into a piece. Okay, let's go back with the white. All right. Kind of a nice little morning here. I did a lot on this photo stamping, but here's what's going on with the photo. See that kind of pattern back there? I mean, there's just no way I can create that out of inks. I don't think. Not that kind of random type of thing going on. And plus, it has a certain tone to it, okay? But it certainly provided a really great foundation for things to come. Now, see, this area out here was just inherently darker in the photograph itself, so it just looks like shadow right here. So when you do these things on the top of photographs like that, it can really set the I don't know, a foundation, I guess, for all of the the other elements to come. And what can I say? It's just a lot of fun to do. It's just a different way of working too with photographs. Certainly a lot of fun, and it kind of puts your kind of creativity to I wouldn't say to the test, but it gets you to think about compositions a little differently and having to work with certain things. Like for example, if there was an area that's really dark on the scene, and if I wanted that cabin to stand out a little bit, I wouldn't want to stamp that in the dark area because the rooftop wouldn't be light because the colors underneath whatever the photograph is. Um, it negates that ability because I don't think we're just going to color that whole rooftop in with like a white paint or something like that. So it's just really fun stuff. And like I said, you can on this scene you can just do practically whatever you want. This is alcohol-based inks for the most part, and you can just color it in. And areas in this case that look a little bit kind of not quite unified. Well, you just unify it all with white pigment ink over the top of it, or things like gel pens and whatnot. So, just entirely fun to play around with, and I love seeing the pieces come together, especially when we start doing little embellishments like the pigment ink and whatnot. So, kind of busy and whatnot. You lay that white pigment ink in there, and all's well. It unifies things. It blends things together. It can separate things by distance. It can bring a little bit more lighting into a piece, and it just changes the overall spirit of a scene. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this photo stamping piece. This is a 4x6, I believe, photo print here. And like I said, you can get them done at any place that prints things out, and you'll find the photograph that I used for this piece on my Flickr account, which is in the description section of this video. You'll find links to all of it, and this one happens to be in the Clouds album, so you can look up someone's Flickr account by just clicking on it and then clicking on albums after that, and all of my different albums are on there, and I have, I don't know, probably 20 different photographs in there, and you just bring up whatever one you want, click download it, and it's all yours, free of use. Okay? Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks as always for tuning into the Stampscapes channel.